There is a sickness in men, a desire to be liked. They walk with lowered heads, wagging their tongues, offering loyalty like a stray offers its belly. They bark not to defend, but to be accepted. They become dogs obedient, harmless, and pitiful. This is your first death. You were taught that loyalty is a virtue. It is not. It is a leash. The man who gives it freely is a slave, and the man who demands it without deserving it is a tyrant. In both cases, the dog suffers. The figure of the dog, though domesticated and praised for its loyalty, is in truth a creature bred for submission. Its instincts are dulled, its teeth offered not to hunt but to defend its master. What the world applauds as loyalty is at its core a quiet surrender of sovereignty. The dog lives not for itself, but for the hand that feeds it. It is fed when permitted, praised when useful, and punished when disobedient. This creature, though seemingly noble in its dedication, embodies the very essence of dependence. It becomes a slave to affection, addicted to approval, and paralyzed by rejection in political and personal life alike. The man who behaves as the dog does, who seeks validation, who wags at praise, who recoils at disfavor, is doomed to remain at the feet of others. He will never lead, for leadership demands independence of thought, a tolerance for solitude, and a ruthless capacity to act without applause. The dog, conditioned to fear disapproval, cannot think beyond the desires of its master. It does not move by its own will. It waits for commands. This is the first and most subtle form of death, the death of personnel command. Such a man will not survive in a world ruled by wolves and lions. The court, the marketplace, the street, all are filled with predators cloaked in silk, smiling with the grace of serpents. These predators do not bark. They do not beg. They do not announce their presence. They observe, they calculate, they choose their moment. The dog, ever desperate to be seen, to be accepted, reveals his entire soul in a wag of the tail. His intentions, his fears, his desires, all are plainly read by the more cunning. And what is exposed is easily exploited. The tragedy of the dog lies not in its loyalty, but in its illusion. It believes that by being kind, it will be spared. It believes that by being obedient, it will be protected. It believes that by being harmless, it will be loved forever. But love fades, circumstance changes, masters grow bored, and when danger arises, no one shelters the dog. It is either sacrificed first or left to fend for itself. Teeth dulled by years of domestication, the dog that cannot hunt, cannot fight, and cannot survive without affection becomes a burden, and burdens are discarded in a time of conflict. The dog cannot defend the gate. It growls to warn but has neither the courage nor cunning to strike. It relies on others to do what it cannot, and thus it is never feared. To be unfazed is to be powerless, for power does not reside in how much one is loved, but in how dangerous one is perceived to be. A man with the heart of a dog cannot command respect, only sympathy. But sympathy does not build empires. It does not secure victory. It does not keep the knife from your throat. This worship of the dog's traits loyalty, obedience, gentleness is a tool used by those in power to maintain control. They preach virtue not because they honor it, but because it weakens those who follow it blindly. The powerful do not live like dogs. They merely teach others to. They smile as the dog defends their estate, fights their wars, serves their ambition, all while believing it is fulfilling some noble destiny. But nobility without autonomy is just another word for servitude. To understand the full extent of the dog's imprisonment, one must look at how quickly society turns on it. The dog that bites once, even in defense, is called dangerous. The dog that stops obeying is abandoned. The dog that questions its master is put down. In this, the lesson is clear. Obedience is not rewarded. It is expected. And once it ceases, the illusion of value disappears. The servant who forgets his place is not reformed. He is removed. Thus, the very traits that once made the dog useful now ensure its destruction. The dog is a creature admired by fools and used by the cunning. Its loyalty is paraded as virtue, its obedience mistaken for moral strength, and its eagerness to please dressed up as nobility. But strip away the sentiment, and what remains is a being trained to need approval, to lower itself at the slightest sign of disapproval, and to trade its instincts for a pat on the head. The dog is not born to serve, but it is quickly broken to serve. It is a slave made palatable by affection. And so too is the man who models himself after it. He who chooses the life of the dog believes safety lies in being agreeable, in yielding, in never posing a threat. He fears conflict more than humiliation, punishment more than mediocrity. He learns to anticipate the needs of others before they are spoken, not out of wisdom, but out of fear. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of being seen as dangerous. His tongue is quick with apologies, his eyes always seeking permission. He does not move unless given the signal. He does not speak unless invited. He walks through life under the illusion that being harmless is the highest form of goodness, when in truth it is the fastest path to irrelevance. The man with a dog's heart lives on the leash of public opinion. He thrives on praise and wilts under criticism. A single word of approval uplifts him. A raised eyebrow breaks him. He cannot withstand tension because he has never known solitude. He cannot command respect because he has never dared to be feared. He clings to the illusion that loyalty will protect him, that kindness will grant him influence, that subservience will earn him elevation. But the world does not operate on such fantasies. Power respects only those who can act without need, who can take without asking, who can stand alone and not tremble. Look closely, and you will see that those who rise in courts, in councils, in commerce, are never the ones most eager to please. The eager are tolerated, used, discarded. The dog is invited to the table not to dine, but to sit quietly under it. When the feast is finished, it is thrown a scrap, and it wags its tail in gratitude, considers itself lucky, calls this life noble. It mistakes proximity to power for power itself. But when famine comes, or when war arrives, or when a more useful beast appears, the dog is cast out without hesitation, because affection is not the same as necessity. The dog lives under the rule of those who do not live like dogs. Kings do not kneel to their subjects. Generals do not seek the approval of their soldiers. Masters do not apologize to servants. The natural order of command is built on distance, on discipline, on an unshakable willingness to act without consent. The dog, in contrast, cannot bear the weight of loneliness, of disapproval, of silence. It needs to be seen, needs to be called good, needs to be told it belongs. And this need is its cage. Worse still, the dog cannot see the chain. It believes itself free because it is not beaten. It believes itself chosen because it is fed. It believes itself loved because it is tolerated. But the moment it disobeys, the truth is revealed. The leash tightens, the hand once gentle becomes firm, the voice once warm grows cold. It is not love that binds the dog to its master. It is fear disguised as loyalty. The creature has been trained to confuse acceptance with survival. It is not honored. It is conditioned. It obeys not because it agrees, but because it has forgotten how to choose. Observe the dog in moments of stress when its master is absent, when danger looms, when hunger strikes. It does not know what to do. Paces, it waits, it whines. Cannot act on its own because it has never been taught to. It has been praised for obedience and punished for initiative. It has learned that its instincts are untrustworthy, that safety lies only in surrender. And so, in crisis, it fails. It is either paralyzed by fear or frantic with confusion. It is useless to itself and to others. It has traded its claws for comfort and lost both. In the theater of power, it is not the honest face that rules, but the mask. And the most effective mask is the wolf. The wolf is not merely a beast of prey, but a symbol of calculated strength, restraint in violence, and precision in attack. It is not born out of chaos, but out of necessity. In a world where men tear each other apart with words, laws, and false virtue, to walk openly as a wolf is foolish, but to lack the wolf within is fatal. The wise man does not abandon the wolf. He wears it beneath his skin, hidden, patient, always watching. The wolf does not seek approval. It does not wag its tail or pant for affection. It is silent in its dignity, solitary in its strength. While the dog looks to the group for protection, The wolf trusts only its instincts and its teeth. It does not howl for attention, but to signal command in a pack. The wolf rises through demonstration of dominance, not by begging for favor. It understands hierarchy not as a prison, but as a ladder to be climbed, not through words but through calculated force. To wear the wolf as a mask is not to lose humanity but to protect it. Those who parade their intentions in broad daylight are quickly dismantled. The man who shows his entire nature is at the mercy of the more cunning. He becomes a map for others to read, a weakness exposed. The wolf understands that concealment is protection. He does not roar when threatened. He waits in silence, observes the flaw, and bites only when the outcome is assured. The fool strikes from emotion. The wolf strikes from certainty. Power requires not just action, but timing, and timing is the wolf's gift. The wolf knows how to wait. It is not hurried by fear or seduced by hope. It does not lunge at every opportunity, but stalks the best one. The art of predation is not found in noise, but in the stillness before the kill. While others run toward the bait, the wolf circles it. He sees the trap long before it is sprung. This is why the wolf survives where others perish. Not because he is faster or stronger, but because he is patient, perceptive, and willing to do what the virtuous will not. The wolf is not cruel. Cruelty is the mark of the desperate. The wolf kills not for pleasure, but for necessity. He wastes no energy on revenge, no emotion on outrage. He is efficient. He understands that fear is a sharper tool than love, and that silence is louder than pleading. Those who face the wolf sense it, a presence that does not need to prove itself. There is no barking, no display, no speech, just the certainty of consequence. That is power.to, where the mask of the wolf is to understand the value of duality. One cannot always be the beast that invites destruction, but one must always be ready to become it. The true strength lies in appearing harmless while remaining dangerous. The sheep sleep peacefully beside the dog, but they tremble when the wolf appears. A man who understands power knows how to cloak himself in gentleness without ever disarming himself. He offers kindness as a gesture, never as a dependence. He speaks softly, but with the knowledge that his silence holds a blade. The man without the wolf is always vulnerable. He is too eager to explain, too afraid to offend, too bound by his desire to be perceived as good. The wolf is not concerned with perceptions, only with results. He does not argue morality with those who are weaker. He does not justify his nature. He acts and his actions define him. In this, he is free, not because he is above others, but because he is not chained by their judgment. To understand the wolf is to understand the necessity of masks. The world does not reward those who show their true selves. It devours them. But the man who knows when to show his face and when to reveal his teeth is untouchable. He is not ruled by impulse, nor guided by need. He governs his presence like a weapon always sheathed, but always near. Loyalty is spoken of as if it were a crown placed upon the head of the virtuous man. But this illusion is crafted by those who benefit from obedience, not by those who understand the nature of power. Loyalty, in its purest form, is not a gift bestowed freely. It is a chain fastened tightly around the neck of the one who gives it. It binds a man not to a cause, but to a master, not to principle, but to dependence. It is a beautiful word used to sanctify subjugation, to dignify servitude, and to preserve the interests of those who fear the rise of free men. The loyal man believes he is noble. He believes that his fidelity to a person or idea is a mark of inner strength. But examine the consequences of such devotion, and you will see that what he calls strength is in fact paralysis. He cannot act without permission. He cannot shift allegiance even when his loyalty is exploited. He cannot betray even when betrayal is survival. He clings to the ideal of constancy as if it were armor, unaware that it is the very thing making him weak. Those who prize loyalty above reason are often the first to be sacrificed and the last to be avenged. The master, the ruler, the opportunist all understand the utility of the loyal. They are predictable, controllable, and unthreatening. They do not ask questions. They do not deviate. They endure punishment and continue to serve. Their value lies not in their ability to think, but in their willingness to endure. And the moment their use expires, so too does their protection. The loyal man who can no longer serve is a burden, and burdens are discarded, not rewarded. He who believes his loyalty will buy him immortality is blind to the nature of those he serves. Gratitude is a fleeting thing, and history is littered with the corpses of men who thought they would be remembered for their allegiance. Loyalty is useful only when wielded with intelligence. To be loyal without leverage is to offer your life without terms. The wise man understands this. He offers loyalty like a loan, not a gift. It is conditional, strategic, and always reversible. He may speak the language of fidelity, but behind his smile is calculation. He gives allegiance when it benefits him, and he withdraws it when it endangers him. He does not confuse loyalty with morality. He understands that to survive, a man must sometimes abandon his former alliances, shift his face, change his course. This is not cowardice. It is an adaptation. To demand loyalty from others is to admit fear. The strong do not beg for allegiance. They command it through force, fear, and necessity. Only the weak appeal to loyalty as a virtue, hoping that sentimental chains will hold what iron cannot. And only the foolish grant that loyalty without knowing whether the one they serve would bleed for them in return. To be loyal to a man who would not risk for you what you risk for him is to wear the collar of a dog, believing it to be a crown. Worse still is loyalty to ideals, for ideals are even less loyal than men. They shift with the wind, collapse under pressure, and often serve as tools for others to manipulate. The man who remains loyal to a cause long after it has lost its soul is no different from the man who remains in a burning house because he once called it home. Principle, like loyalty, must be examined often and discarded if it no longer serves your survival. The dead do not get to call themselves noble. They simply rot, praised by those who are clever enough to live. Those who ascend, whether to power, wealth, or freedom, do not climb by being loyal to all, but by being loyal to none unless it suits them. Their allegiance is selective. Their oaths are temporary. Their faith is reserved for themselves alone. They form alliances, not bonds. They make deals, not vows. And when the tide turns, they are the first to adjust their sails. It is not because they lack honor, but because they understand the nature of storms. The man who dies with a reputation for loyalty is often remembered briefly by the very men who replaced him. The man who survives by bending the chain is never remembered as loyal, but he is remembered as alive. The world, despite all its cloaks of civility, responds not to kindness or submission, but to the demonstration of force. It bends not for the meek, but for the dangerous. A man who whimpers when struck, who asks rather than demands, who seeks mercy before commanding fear, is a man consigned to be trampled. This is not cruelty. It is structure. Nature, from the depths of the forest to the throne of kingdoms, bows to power, and power is shown not in appeals, not in tears, but in fangs bared with silent certainty. The man who wishes to be safe must appear dangerous. Not loud, not reckless, dangerous. There is a difference between noise and threat. Dogs bark to warn, to frighten, to create the illusion of strength. But they bark because they fear. The wolf, in contrast, does not need to bark. His presence is enough. His stillness speaks louder than the cries of the desperate. That is the art of dominance. To say little, to do much, and to let your silence carry the weight of your resolve. When men look into your eyes and see that you will not flinch, that you will not beg, that you will not hesitate, they do not test you twice. The man who cannot be feared cannot be respected. He may be liked, he may be pitied, but he will not be trusted with responsibility. Leaders are not chosen for their warmth, but for their capacity to make hard decisions without trembling. A prince who cannot punish is a figurehead. A general who hesitates in retaliation is a coffin for his men. A man who cannot say no with finality will be used until he is empty. The world is filled with the corpses of the agreeable. Pleasant men, soft men, men who smiled too often and struck too little. Fear is not a flaw, it is a tool. Properly harnessed, it clears obstacles faster than any diplomacy. A single act of calculated brutality is remembered longer than 100 kind gestures. Mercy is admirable only when it comes from the strong. When the weak show mercy, it is not seen as nobility, but as helplessness. And helplessness in this world is an invitation to be devoured. The predator does not negotiate with prey. He devours it. And the man who carries no fangs, who recoils from conflict, who whines when threatened, offers himself as that prey. To understand this is to understand how to move in the world. A man must not cry out when wounded. He must not explain when challenged. He must not appeal to fairness. Fairness is a fiction maintained by those in power to pacify those without it. The world does not care what you deserve, only what you can take and hold. If you wish to avoid being dominated, you must radiate the capacity to dominate. You must not boast, but you must never yield. You must train your face to show no panic, your voice to carry no desperation, your hands to steady even in betrayal. Fangs are not merely weapons, they are symbols. The difference between the powerful and the powerless is not in their morality, but in their willingness to act without permission. The man with fangs does not wait for conditions to be perfect. He creates conditions through action. He knows that kindness without leverage is weakness, and diplomacy without the threat of force is noise. The one who can destroy but chooses not to, that is strength. The one who cannot destroy and pleads to be spared is a victim. Even in the so-called civilized world, the same principle holds. In politics, the man who can ruin reputations is heard. In business, the one who can walk away from the table or overturn it commands terms. In personal dealings, the man who is known to punish betrayal without warning is not betrayed twice. The whisper of capability backed by proven ruthlessness reshapes how others behave. They measure their words. They tread carefully. They offer what they would never offer to a whimpering supplicant. There is no honor in becoming a martyr to principle if your enemies celebrate your fall. A man must learn to be steel in velvet, soft in speech, deadly in deed. He must cultivate the ability to appear calm while being capable of chaos. When you walk into a room, it is better they fear crossing you than forget you were there. The whimper is forgotten. The fong is remembered. It is written into the laws of nature, into the instinct of man, into the halls of history. Those who possess teeth write the rules. Those who do not obey them, no man climbs to power through universal affection. The desire to be liked is the first shackle placed around the neck of the ambitious. It dulls instinct, softens action, and forces a man to calculate not what is necessary, but what is acceptable. And in doing so, he hands over his authority to the masses whose approval he seeks. The man who wishes to rise must learn early that the currency of ascent is not popularity, but clarity, and clarity demands decisions that will be despised by many and respected by few. Hatred is not failure. It is a signal. It tells you that you have ceased to be furniture in other men's lives, that your actions carry weight, that your presence disrupts their comfort. It is not the hated man who is in danger, but the man everyone forgets to fear. Power cannot exist without enemies, because power creates contrast. Those who are above must be separated from those below. This separation breeds resentment, and resentment breeds hate. It is not a flaw in the design of power, but its cost. And only those willing to pay it will ever hold anything more than illusion. The weak man craves affection because he thinks it will shield him. He believes that if people like him, they will not strike him. He believes that if he keeps everyone happy, he will be safe. But safety born of approval is a fragile thing. It lasts only as long as others are satisfied. The moment he must choose between what is right for him and what is comfortable for them, he is alone. And if he is not prepared for that solitude, he will fold. The strong man, in contrast, accepts isolation as the natural companion of leadership. He does not fear being hated. He calculates which hatreds are necessary. It is far better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. And rarely can one maintain both without contradiction. Love is conditional, based on fantasy and expectation. It demands performance, consistency, self-sacrifice. One misstep, and love turns cold. But fear survives missteps. It lingers long after affection fades. Keeps men in line even when they no longer agree with you. It silences betrayal and sharpens obedience. And when fear is coupled with respect, it becomes the foundation of unshakable authority. To be willing to be hated is to free yourself from the court of public opinion. It is to act on your own terms. It is to move without explanation, to punish without apology, to speak when others remain silent. It is to take what others are too timid to touch. Those who remembered the rulers, the founders, and the revolutionaries were all hated in their time. The masses spat their names, their peers whispered against them, and their enemies called them evil. But history does not ask if they were liked. It asks if they won. The man who tries to be liked by all becomes harmless. He is so busy softening his words, pleasing both sides, and avoiding offense that he becomes invisible. He disappears into compromise. He forgets how to say no. He becomes the tool others use to enforce their will. He is praised until he is no longer useful, and then he is discarded with the same polite smiles that once flattered him. Affection is a performance, and the moment you stop acting, the crowd moves on. You must decide what matters more, the illusion of harmony or the reality of progress. Because true progress in politics, in business, in personal life, always comes at the expense of someone else's comfort. You will be called cruel for being efficient. You will be called arrogant for refusing to explain yourself. You will be called heartless for cutting ties that no longer serve you. Let them speak. Their words are the sound of your assent. They are not judges, only spectators, bitter that they did not dare do the same. If you are not hated by some, you are not leading. You are following, or at best, standing still. Hatred is the storm a man must walk through if he intends to leave the ground behind. It will come from below, from those who wish they had your position. It will come from beside you, from those who resent your pace. And it will come from above, from those who fear you may take their place. But the man who stops walking because of the wind never sees the view from the top. The path to dominance is not paved with gentleness, nor adorned with the praise of the many. It is carved with sharp intent, forged through discomfort, and sustained by the ruthless refusal to be tamed. The world does not reward the harmless. It uses them, silences them, or forgets them. To rise above the pack, you must not merely reject weakness, you must hunt it within yourself and kill it. The dog, obedient, eager, fragile, must die so the wolf may emerge. A creature that does not beg, does not whimper, does not wait for permission. A creature that understands that survival is not granted. It is taken. Let others seek virtue in submission. You, if you dare, must become the thing they fear to speak of. Not for cruelty's sake, but for mastery. Not to destroy indiscriminately, but to never be destroyed.